welcome today. My name is Mike Corrigan. Welcome to B.A.C. Musical Instruments virtual NAMM experience. We're joining us today.
Operations.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Matt Simianer's been with us for many years now. We go way back. And one of the things we're going to be talking today actually will include telling his story. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. We're looking forward, hopefully, barring no technical difficulties, we'll be joined by some guest speaker here shortly. We'll let you know how that goes. But what we're going to be exploring today is the music industry. And one of the things that kind of sparked this conversation is, in our exploratory phases of this, is the expression, "How are you doing?" How you doing, guy? Huh? How are you doing? And that's kind of taken a little bit of a different meaning over the last 9 or 10 months, for sure.
The one thing that we were talking about, NAMM this year, is that it's so different from every year previously because we're going more online. And we started to talk about and think about the kids that go there for next generation, and then people that aren't familiar with all the facets of the music industry. The schools that both you and I went to, one of them music business, the other repair, that we'll have on later. And we asked them if they would come on with us, and we're just going to talk to them a little bit and see how they're doing with this pandemic and what creative solutions they're coming with to try and get kids out there to find jobs.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that expression, you know, "how are you doing," takes on a new phrase, because we've all had these conversations, whether it's with musicians that we work with, whether it's with family at home or friends, or business partners, clients, retailers that or a bit longer even. We've been constantly having to shift and evolve and be innovative to deal with these changes. And we thought, you know what? This would be a great opportunity to kind of open up a conversation, talk about some of our experiences, and then again, as a value to, in the spirit of NAMM, we know Matt's first experience, and I'm going to ask him this in a second, is there's a lot of young students that are looking to explore the industry of the music business. And so Matt's attended a university in Nebraska. Tell us a little bit about that. What's the name of this? Chadron State, right?
Chadron State.
And that was the first opportunity you had to go to NAMM, right?
Yeah, we went to NAMM. I went 3 years, I think, in a row when I was at school there, and then skipped when I went to Red Wing, and then started going to NAMM with you.
That's right.
So it was a lot. There's been a lot of NAMMs.
There you go. So I didn't even it didn't even occur to me, because my career path took a little bit of a different turn. So my first NAMM in probably 2005 or 6. And so it was really cool to learn that Matt had attended as a student at Chadron State University, studying the music industry. And it occurred to us, you know, we need to make sure that these conversations that we're going to have today are made accessible to students out there and any other musicians. In fact, there's an opportunity here because of the changing landscape that you might find a lot of people in the world are going to be taking a slightly different path from what maybe they thought they were, because you've got a passion for music. And so we want to kind of talk about that and address some points and thoughts that maybe you haven't thought about. And again, give us our experience.
Yeah, everyone's had to make adjustments. You know, this whole thing is what no one has ever experienced before, so there's been adjustments like crazy. And hopefully if there's, you know, companies and music dealers and stores and all these other things, that if they're looking for people to hire, that they can give a shout out on here, and maybe we can find them some help.
There we go. So let's check. Do we have our guest? Not yet. Okay, that's fine. So we will be hopefully joined here shortly with a guest from Nebraska, and we'll bring them in a second. Tell us a little bit. You've got a story about your professor. Actually, I want to hear a little bit about your professor when you were there, because the gentleman we're going to introduce, if again with technical difficulties not barring, is a new professor there. Tell us a little bit about your professor at Chadron State. Dr.
Schaefer. He has retired. If he's watching, shout out. Hey, Dr. Schaefer, how's it going? Yeah, he had been in the industry, played music, kind of knew the ins and outs, was in the military. There's more out there than just what's going on here. Coming from a very small town, going to a small town college, you know that there's a lot out there. So, you know, never be afraid to just pick up and travel. And many times over, I have picked up and traveled and left, you know, and
There you go.
it was because of his words that I'm here.
Sure, and that's definitely one of the things that we recognized in the light of this situation that's transpired over the last 10 months or so now, almost, I guess, a year at this point now that's been kind of going on, is that you can either sit back and wait to see what happens, or you could just kind of take the bull by the horns and, you know, control what's going to happen. And while there's a lot of stuff out of your control, what's in control is your life. So you can get innovative, and that's the thing that you've got to do right now. As they say, necessity is the mother of invention. So right now is the time that you've got to innovate. You got to think differently, and that's kind of some of the topics that we want to talk about with this professor. It sounds like if we have an opportunity, we may have some students that will join in too to present some questions. And right now, we are live on Facebook. We're also live on the NAMM show. Traditionally, there are hundreds of thousands of people that show up to the NAMM show here year over year. And if you're familiar with us, if you've been walking through the NAMM show, you'll generally notice that we've got one of the most happening, hopping booths.
Right,
the guy comes over and he goes, you guys are the sound police here, guys, come on. And we really do miss that. Yeah, shout out to all of our musicians that we work with. I don't want to name anybody specifically, but you guys all know who you are. I don't want to leave anybody out, but we really miss you guys. This is not the same NAMM experience that we've ever had. But please go to our NAMM booth virtually if you're not registered and you're finding this on Facebook. Register for the NAMM booth and go to B.A.C. Musical Instruments. I'm getting the sign that our guest is on with us. So with that, we're going to introduce our guest today, Dr. McKay Tebbs at Chadron State University. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing good here. How are you?
Doing well. It's good to see you. Now this is an interesting thing. So we are very excited to be one of the few, as far as live streaming during the NAMM show. And this right here is a beautiful way of actually leveraging that, so we could be dropping here that attended that program, Matt Simianer, who's been with us now for several years and is now the director of operations here.
First of all, can you hear me? Is it working on your end?
Yep, we got you.
All right, good. Well, I'm McKay Tebbs. I'm the director of Music Industry Studies here at Chadron State College. And in their first year here, students have the opportunity of exploring careers and learning about what a career in music means. It's very common to know how to make a career for themselves. So anyway, I try to expose them with a lot of different ideas. And we do that. During our second year here is where we start recording classes with the students to teach those music industry to be able to record themselves with other people. I mean, recording music is a big part of how the music industry works nowadays. And it's also during that second year and third year that we start taking our students to see what the music industry is like. We're in a small very
And actually, that's a beautiful segue right there. You're actually, because, well, it's not happening in person, but you are virtually. And that's that right there fundamentally kind of articulates how the music industry is rapidly changing, because for the first time ever, you know, Riley has an opportunity. From what I understand, the NAMM organization has already committed to making available a virtual experience moving from here on out, which is the newest, greatest product that's coming out, and have access to all these companies in the music industry without having to spend, you know, for some small retailers, it's a big deal to shut down your music store and spend thousands of dollars to travel across the country or across the world if you're not in the United States to attend the NAMM show and stay in Anaheim, California. So that definitely, I think, that might yield some really remarkable opportunity. So let's get this started off with some questions here. So broad stroke, I'm catching you off guard. I know that. That was one of the things I talked with your professor about. I want to get an idea, just a sense of what your thoughts are, passion for this industry, a passion for music. And, you know, he and I have had conversations about a lot of really remarkable opportunities in the music industry. So for you, that you're pursuing music business, what are some of the things that you might imagine would be different or impacted? What changes can you anticipate may be happening because of this last year?
I don't know. I feel like, especially with like the music business or anything like that, go out and meet people is a big deal. You know.
You know what? I appreciate that. I absolutely appreciate that. And again, before you jumped in on the stream here, we were just doing the introduction to this session, and we were talking about that. So we were talking about grabbing the bull by the horns. Yeah, you want to talk about that a little bit? So Matt, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Matt. He attests that experience is why he can fix anything in our building, because he points out that we didn't have anybody within 100 miles around that could fix anything. So I don't know how the heck, but you know, the guy could fix a lawnmower at age 4, I think. So anything around the building, anything goes wrong, Matt's there to figure it out, and that's hillbilly ingenuity. Is that what you talked about?
Right on. You know, how I met people in your industry, internships are down. You know, being able to figure out what sector of the music industry you want to get into, and just trying to learn about everything that's out there. You know, whether you want to go into recording or sales or repair or, you know, just any type of it, or playing, you know, because musician is a business itself, right? So that there's all these things that you're trying to figure out at a time that you want to go talk to people with experience, and it's really hard to get those people in front of you, right? So I definitely understand some
of the things we might be talking about today. And I'll just point out to you, as hard as it is for the fact that not having a live NAMM show means that all of these students don't have an opportunity, like yourself, don't have an opportunity. Your network is really important, perhaps more important in the music industry, especially for musicians, but in any sector of what we're doing in the music industry. Sometimes it's not necessarily about people, you know, so having a network and having people that like you is obviously an important thing sometimes, because sometimes if you're going to be on a bus with a group of people.
Executive director of NatBert. We've both been in the organization for a long time, supported it. NatBert is National Association of Professional Band Instruments, is great, but it's one of those things that if you go to, your networking just grows exponentially, right? So it's finding those type of people and those type of organizations to try and network that make such a huge difference.
Right. So here's the thing. So how has this moment in time changed the music industry? So world that are accustomed to going to the NAMM show and having all of these students or prospective employees show up to their booth and meet them, they're not having that opportunity either. And take advantage of the NAMM show right now. Yeah, it's maybe not the ideal situation because it's virtual, but get on there. I've been doing this all day for the last few days, and send notes and messages to different companies. Introduce who you are. And even outside of that, get on Facebook. Find companies that interest you, companies that you'd love to work with or align yourself with. We were contacted by a young man in town in Kansas City, and would it be okay if I came through and took a tour of the factory? You know, obviously we got to take precautions with masks and stuff, but we were able to do that. And, you know, it's actually, we welcome that. We would love that. There's a lot of companies that would love to hear from you that you can't grow and expand your network. Right now may be the best time, more accessible for you to do such a thing. So that's Riley, that was a great thing. Thank you for bringing that up, because I was hoping you would mention that. What are some other opportunity to grow your network in person?
I think just the way that the industry's probably made is going to probably catapult it in a whole different direction. Like, there's probably going to be all sorts of different ways to record, and it might be a catalyst to change.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Matt says this kid's smart. Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, we've taught, like, for example, what do we got going on right here right now?
Yeah.
Like, this has never happened before, right?
Yeah, a year ago we didn't even have any of this, right? So we've had to adapt and change, just like everyone's going to have to. You know, it's not that it's going away; it's just evolving and changing. So
and we're live broadcasting right
Yeah.
now during the NAMM show. We've got the surface of talking about doing something like this. It was, again, the necessity of, all right, you got the NAMM show coming up. It's virtual. We got to do something. So this is awesome. And now, one exciting things and engage more. You bring up a good point with recording, and I've talked to a lot of our guys. You know, Elliot Mason is trombonist with Jazz at Lincoln Center. And I'm talking to him recently, and he's telling me about all the equipment that he's gotten for his home studio. This is a conversation we've had with a lot of our guys. You know, so if you're in the music business right now and you're trying to think of their home studios, and we need to know, they maybe not have experience working with this. There may be opportunities for you to specialize in learning how to set up a home studio so that the musician can do what they do best, and that's perform and compose and create music. And maybe somebody like yourself could roll in there and show them how to set up a really great studio in their home and make that job easier for them so that they could focus on their craft, their art. So very, very good observation right there. I like that. You know, we also have a lot of these musicians. One of our guys, Christopher Bill, he's got classical trombone on YouTube. And Chris has been doing, for years, he's been dubbing projects with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, where he's gotten all the entire orchestra playing their parts, and he's cut it together into a performance. And that's just an amazing thing to see, and it's an acting kind of thing. So very good. You have any other questions? Now, let's talk about this a little bit. And again, Riley, I appreciate your participation with this conversation, because if anything else, even after this conversation, I'm sure a lot of people will ask themselves more. And we've done a lot of things in the last few years as we've been growing. But one of the awesome opportunities for us is, if you look at a lot of our musicians, we've got a lot of young lions in the industry. As we've evolved with things like social media. And our musicians have a great audience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how does that affect if you're a trombone player and you're looking at different companies you want to play with? You know, like, would you rather play on the best trombone, or would you rather play on a horn with this that's been around for a couple hundred years and has a few thousand people on their roster? You know, maybe it doesn't have the same amount of value as a company that has more of an intimate finger on the pulse with social media right now.
yeah,
Right? So there's a lot of different things that people might be considering.
I think the question is, do you have any questions?
Come on, Riley, what questions do you have for us? We want you to ask us some questions.
Oh, I don't know.
Dr. Teb's got some questions.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, you're a CSC alumni, and you used to. What kind of advice do you have for Riley? What could you tell him now to help him prepare for a career in music?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is you might leave Nebraska. Nebraska never leaves you. Always remember that.
He reminds us of that all the
Yeah,
time.
right? But it was something constantly always tell us, never be afraid to move. So I know Mike's done it as well. As at least 4 times in my life, I packed up everything I had, threw it in a car, and took off. And I moved to places that I had never been before. The biggest things is, don't be afraid for those things, because you don't know what's on the other side, and not taking those chances. None of them are life sentences, right? You can always rebound from it. You can always come back, but you can never move forward until you take the first path leads you. The other thing is that you can't be afraid to fail. That's a big thing, is that your biggest growth come after your comfort zone, because you haven't tried it, right? So the more you experience, the larger your comfort zone gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I think the one thing I would add to that, it's in the same spirit, is just recognize opportunity. You know, and that's what basically at the root of what Matt's saying is recognize opportunity and take it. You know, just to say, even in a situation where I didn't necessarily up and move, but you know, when I learned about Duda being down in Tulsa, I got up in my van and I drove down to Oklahoma. I learned that this master Jedi of the musical instrument manufacturing world was 4 hours south of me. And I invested my time and gas money, and I did it as much as I could. And I would just get in my van and I'd drive down there and I'd sleep on a couch in the factory, and I would do that as often as I could, as much as I could afford to do it. I didn't get paid anything, but it was an opportunity. And that's what Matt's talking about. If you identify an opportunity, especially if it's something you're passionate about, then take that opportunity and don't let it pass, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible to regret something that you did, right? It's only possible to regret something you didn't do.
Right, right, yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, is not out there. And coming from that area, I didn't know what was out there, right? You don't know who the company to ask, you don't know who to call. But the thing that we talk about, that people from that area and stuff, the one thing they do have is the will to work. You know, hard work and the dedication, move forward, you'll find your success. You just keep going.
There you go. Well, guys, I really appreciate you. Do you have any other questions there, Dr. Tebbs?
Yeah, I was just gonna. You know, I'm a guitar player. I do guitar, and what Riley's. So, what would you say to people who wanted to learn more about your company? See a little bit of your history and products you guys have to show.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that question. So we've got, of course, again, if people are finding this January 21st, the NAMM show right now is running through the 22nd of January, 2021, I guess we're at now. I encourage you to get on NAMM.org and register for the Believe in Music Week. And if you register for that, you'll have an opportunity to all of the companies that are participating this year in the virtual NAMM. On there, you can type up BAC Musical Instruments, and you'll find our own portal and some different other elements and assets that we have gained over the years. We've been featured on NBC's Nightly News with Lester Holt. We've got some documentary work that comes. And in addition to that, go to our website, coolisbac.com. Cool is B-A-C, COOLISBAC.com. Of course, our social media is facebook.com/coolisbac. And again, we're committed. Not familiar with BAC, just in a nutshell, we're committed to preserving the legacy of American artistry and manufacturing brass instruments. We handcraft across the street from 12th and Vine, which was referenced in the song Kansas City, Here I Come. I won't sing it because Matt will give me a hard time. But that's where we are situated in this very historic series, is what we call those. So if you're a little kiddo starting off band in 5th or 6th grade, and you're a music product and our artist series instruments, and there's a really compelling story. I think one of the things that really sets us apart, involved, and you're looking at two people here that are really dedicated and passionate about what we do. And there's an entire team of people here in this building and associated with our company, the musicians we work with, that really truly care about the music community. And I think that is what really makes BAC what it is. So thank you so much. Dr. Tebbs, I appreciate you joining us. And to everybody that was joining out, thank you so much. Please share this presentation on Facebook or YouTube or whatever you want to do. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.